Click record. Here we go. Awesome. Welcome you guys to our Body Electric weekly webinar. I can't believe it's already early September. We're already like a week into September, which is just nuts. Hopefully you guys had an amazing Labor Day weekend. Tonight, I'm hoping that I don't take up your whole evening, but I hope that you find this valuable enough that you are just like zoned in and you got your notebook and you're ready to rock and roll. This is a topic that is very close to my heart, mostly because I feel like it's something that I want to help all new coaches with. I feel like new coaches come on board and they don't always know how to handle conversations or how to handle building relationships. And so this is something that I feel really passionate about because I really attribute the success of our team in the last year or two to being just simply because we've gotten more hands-on with helping new coaches with their conversations. It used to be that everybody was kind of out fending for themselves, and we've really kind of honed in on making sure that our leadership is helping our newer coaches do this. So I want to dive in deeper tonight. I want you guys to walk away with like exact things that you can say to people when you're having conversations. I want you to know how you can walk away or how you can have a good smooth transition from talking to somebody about their family to talking to them about health and fitness. I want to cover all of it, okay? So I probably could have turned this into like a 3-part presentation thing, but because we have speakers lined up from now through the end of the year, I just decided I should just cram it all in one night. So since you get to hear from me for one last time for the next month or so, I figured I would cram it in and make it super valuable. So I'm going to go ahead and click share screen. Hang on one second. Let me make sure I can do this right. Yeah, and then when this happens, I cannot see you guys anymore. So, oops, wrong thing. All right. Okay, so let's just dive in since we've got a lot to cover. So first and foremost, we're talking tonight about becoming a master conversationalist. This is, like I said, super close to my heart. This is something I want to make sure that I help everybody with. And so I hope that if you have any questions throughout tonight's presentation that you write them down and that at the very end you ask them. Because I think sometimes people are afraid to ask questions, but really that's where the learning happens. So if there's something that I don't cover, I want you to make sure you ask about it. We're going to kick things off with some announcements. If you've not already seen, we have our next Super Saturday happening on Saturday, October 29th. This is happening nationwide, so even if you're not in Indiana, October 29th is the official date for Super Saturday. Our event is going to be from 2:30 to 6:30 p.m. in Indy. I realize that that's a really weird time, but it's for a very, 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 very good reason. We have a guest coming. I'm not allowed to reveal who it is yet, but I can tease you about it. So until they announce it, until they allow us to announce it, I can only tell you the details aside from that. So you're going to want to have your ticket. You're going to want to come to Indy if you can. Like I said, it's from 2:30 to 6:30. There will be a live workout, and it's going to be at the JW Marriott downtown Indy, which is also pretty cool. So that's going to be a fantastic time. So if you're not local to Indiana, you can go to your events tab in the Coach Online office. Probably in about 2 weeks or so, people should be starting to sign up for their Super Saturday, so you should see the events listed there. The tickets for ours will be tbbindiana.com as always. That's where the tickets will be. There's a couple of announcements that I did not somehow factor into this slide, but there's a couple things that I want to share with you as well. The Beachbody Health Bet is totally rocking my world right now. And I know I posted about it yesterday. I know a lot of you guys are experiencing the same thing. It's like what we've always wanted a challenge group to be. And we have pretty darn good challenge groups, but it's like everything we want it to be as far as people showing their Shakeology and sharing their workouts, except for it's like on speed. Like it's like everybody's actually doing it and everybody's actually posting selfies, and it's really awesome to see. And so it's funny to me. It really shows how much money motivates people to stick to their wits and to commit. So the health bet is awesome right now. We've got a lot of people participating, a lot of different teams, multiple teams on the team. So it's not too late to join into the group, but I believe it is too late at this point to be able to be eligible for the cash prizes. So if you're interested in being in it for the accountability purposes, just let your upline diamond know and we can add you. Okay, so let's dive into our topic for tonight, which is becoming a master of conversations. I hope that you come away from this, if nothing else, realizing that this is what you do. This is what you do. And the reason I think this is so funny to say, because it sounds like Captain Obvious is here saying this out loud, but when I started this business, I remember telling my husband, like, the number one reason I just don't know if I can do this is because I just don't know if I really want to talk to people. And he was like, honey, like, that's kind of what this is. If you want to build this business, you're going to have to learn how to talk to people. And so if you feel like I just connected with you in some way, if you're like, yeah, I really dread it. Like, I really dread having conversations with people. I would encourage you to make this a focus for you in your personal development. And so I didn't include these in a slide, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. If anything tonight makes you like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Oh my gosh, I wish I knew this. Oh my gosh, I need to work on this. If you feel like you're saying that to yourself a lot, I want you to, your action item is to not only therefore take this information and rock it, but also buy a book pertaining to this topic. Okay, and there are some out there that can help you. There's one called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's one of the top personal development books that I've ever read. Again, it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's one called Everybody Communicates, Few Connect, which is a John Maxwell book. There are tons and tons and tons of things out there that can help you become a master of conversations and a master of relationships. So it's not okay. Remember, we're all entrepreneurs and we're all business owners. So it's no longer okay for us to move forward in our business with excuses. So if we say things all the time like, well, I'm just not really good at conversations, or I'm not really good at building relationships, or I'm not really good at doing this, that's your own fault, okay? So if you're saying that to yourself, then it's because it's your own fault. So you've got to take that, you've got to buy a book about it, you've got to tune into some podcasts, and you've got to get better at it. I say this from experience because I, again, was the girl who said, I want to be a relationship marketer, but I don't want to have the relationships. I said those words. So I'm telling you that I am so much better off for it. I'm so much better for having pursued it and for becoming better at it, because now my life is amazing. Now I have all these friends and all these happy, positive people around me, and that never would have happened if I didn't get good at conversations. So if nothing else, I want you to take away tonight that this is your job. Your job is to have really good conversations. Your job is not to have awesome photos on Instagram or on Facebook. Your job is not even to live stream on Facebook. Your job is not to necessarily have an email marketing list. Your job is to be really good at conversations and really good at building relationships. Okay, so I want to fast forward to the end, and then we're going to circle back. Okay, so we're going to jump ahead. So the bottom line is that people are either going to say yes to you or they're going to say no. So right off the bat, you know, you're either going to get a yes or you're going to get a no, right? That's at least the end goal. That's the hope. If they say yes to you, if they say yes to your invitation for a challenge group, or they say yes to you checking out the sneak peek or something like that, you could potentially be changing this person's life. So it's not just, yes, they're going to buy a challenge pack. I want you to think about it in broader terms. If they say yes, you could be changing their life. If they say no, then your responsibility is to follow up until they either file a restraining order against you or until they say yes. And I don't mean that you got to drive the person crazy or that you have to be pushy, but I'm saying that people in this lifetime are busy. They're reading your messages while they're driving, to pick up their kid from dance class. People are busy. And so just because you asked them once or you followed up twice and they haven't responded doesn't mean that you can give up on them. Because remember, we believe in people. We believe in people before they believe in themselves. And sometimes that means being the person who just continuously follows up. So I want you to just keep that in mind as we go through this, right? The end goal is to get a yes or a no from somebody. Okay, it's to get one or the other so that you know how to move forward. And we're gonna dissect that more, but I wanted to start with sort of the end in mind. Okay, so the first thing that you have to know, that you have to feel deep down in your heart, is you have to get over your fear. You've got to get over your fear of having these conversations. You've got to get over your fear of either saying or not saying the right things. You've got to get over your fear about what people think. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. Because I can tell you right now that some of you guys have awful thoughts running through your mind when you send somebody a follow-up on Facebook and you see them see it and they don't respond. You have all these things happening in your mind. Like you start thinking like, oh my gosh, there it is. See, they saw it and they don't want to be in my group. And now I'm a failure and I can't believe I even asked them. And oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I probably said the wrong thing, right? You've got to get over that, because probably what's actually happening is their kid is throwing spaghetti at the wall. There's meat sauce running down the paint in their kitchen. and they just can't respond to you right now. That's the reality of it, okay? And I'm saying that, and I hope you're laughing, because that's true. That's true. Most of the time, the fears that are in our head are not real. They're just what we're telling ourselves. So I want you to kind of get over that, and I want you to just embrace the fact that, hello, you're an entrepreneur, and you've chosen network marketing, you've chosen relationship building. So you're going to have to forget about looking stupid, you're going to have to forget about saying the wrong thing, you're going to have to forget about pleasing people, and you're going to have to just push forward. You're going to have to keep going. Okay, so we're actually going to do a little bit of work tonight. We're not going to be able to officially role play because you guys are all on your own in your houses right now. So what I want you to do is I want you to get out a notebook or a sheet of paper, and I want you to just write down some notes, because I think that what you write down is going to help you when you go to have your next conversation on Facebook or on social media. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. Grab your pen, grab your notebook. The first thing I want you to do is, before you write anything down, I want you to think about your favorite food, your favorite type of food. For me, it's Mexican food. I love Mexican food. I could have it for every meal. It was the inspiration behind the blog post about Mexican food, right? I could have it for breakfast. I could have it for lunch. I could have it for dinner. I love it. Okay, so I want you to think about your favorite type of food. Doesn't have to be that. And then I want you to imagine that you are talking to somebody about this favorite food of yours, right? Whether it's a restaurant you've tried recently or an entree that you've tried recently, you decide. I want you to write down the types of phrases or sentences you would say to them. If you're just sharing with somebody this new favorite entree that you've tried, or this restaurant that you love, what would you say? I want you to write it down. Most likely, you're writing things down like, you've got to try this. Or, I love Mexican food. Right? Those are the types of things that you're thinking right now that's coming to your head. So let's say that you've been talking to this friend about this favorite type of food. And then your end goal, right, is to invite them to come with you to try this food, to try this entree at a certain restaurant. How would you invite them then to try this food or to try this restaurant? What type of sentences would you use to invite them? I want you to write it down because it's going to be helpful for you later. Most likely, again, it's going to be super casual. I doubt any of you would say to them, I heard that the Mexican restaurant down the street has a promo running right now on their 3 taco special. And you should really do it because it's only on promo for this week. Right? Instead, what you're probably saying is, you've got to try this. You're gonna love it. I want you to love it. You've got to come with me and try it out. Okay? Right? So hopefully you've written down whatever speaks to you, because we all have different types of language. If I were to tell you what I would say, it might be different from what you would actually say. So that's why I wanted you to kind of brainstorm and make your own notes here. I want you to do the same exact activity. So we're moving on to the second one. I want you to do the same exact thing about a movie that you've seen recently. So I want you to, write down your favorite movie and then write down like what you would talk about with somebody if you were sharing it. Like you've just bumped into a friend and you're telling them about this movie that you recently saw. What would you say about it? What would you tell them? And then how would you move forward in inviting them to come with you to see this movie? So jot down some notes. What are some phrases that you would say? Most likely, it's pretty similar. Activity 3, same thing, challenge groups. Instead of talking to somebody about Mexican food or the movie you just saw, you're doing the same thing when you're inviting them or talking to them about a challenge group. There is no difference. The only difference is what you've already put in your own mind that makes it different. What's already in your mind is that you're a coach and that you're talking to somebody and that they're going to buy something. And so now you have this weird theory in your mind that somebody's buying something from you, and it changes the game, right? It's not any different. When you're sharing a challenge group, or you're sharing Shakeology, or you're sharing a fitness program with somebody, you're sharing it just like you would if you were sharing with them about your favorite movie or your favorite restaurant. The same phrases can be applied when you're inviting to your challenge group. If you guys, probably a lot of you saw the webinar that I did a couple months ago where we did a deep dive into my Facebook Messenger of conversations. If you haven't checked that out, you can basically see it all there. You can go watch the webinar recording and you can see exactly how I talk to people, but you will notice that nothing is formalized. Everything that I write to people when I'm inviting them is very, very casual. I love it. It's been a game changer for me. This burrito has been a game changer for me, right? I don't know if I'd say that about burrito. But anyways, I tell them it's been a game changer for me. I love it. You've got to do it with me, right? Like I say all these things very casually. I want you in this. I want you to see the movie. You have to see the movie, right? I talk to them exactly the same way. I don't turn into a formal billboard when I'm talking to people about a challenge group. Okay, so we've got that out of the way. So sharing the power of our groups, our belief in people, the products, and the business is no different than sharing your favorite movie or your restaurant. You've got to keep it real. You've got to keep it authentic. And it's okay to offer disclaimers. It's okay to say to them, hey, so this might be out of the blue, but I just thought I'd ask. You can say that. You can say that. If you've been talking to somebody and they have not brought up health and fitness, you can say to them, hey, this might seem out of the blue, but it feels like we're friends here. So I just wanted to let you know XYZ. It's okay to offer a disclaimer. We're going to get more into the specifics of what you can say here in a minute. Okay, so I want to tell you this. I see a lot of conversations. I really encourage a lot of my new coaches to send me screenshots of what they're saying or not saying, what people who are interested are asking them. So I do a lot of this. I mean, this is probably like 50% of my job description is helping people with their conversations. So this is what I've picked up on that people do that leads to a gigantic no from someone, or that leads to suffering on their part. Like they just feel stuck. Number one, the coach gives a sales pitch. In other words, someone asks them, okay, so tell me about Shakeology. And they literally offer like a dissertation on Shakeology. Like they tell them, it has 70 foods, they're superfoods, it has this many grams of protein. I mean, they literally give like a dissertation when the person really just asked about it, like something simple in conversation. So they give a sales pitch. Never give a sales pitch. Your responses to people should never be more than just a few sentences long at most. The shorter, the better. Number two, they talk about themselves. So the coach talks about themselves more than they get to know the person that they're talking to. And I think this is hard because I think we're so used to tell your story, let the person know, let the person connect to you about your story. Let your story be what attracts people to you. Do not necessarily use your story in a private conversation. You can say things generally, like I said before, like P90X and Shakeology was a game changer for me. But I don't go into my full 5-year story about it in my private message, because this person has either reached out or I have reached out because they need help, not because I need help, right? We're talking about them. So when you are writing back to somebody, make sure that you're writing back with either questions to get to know them better, or that you're talking about them and not about you. Number three, the coach fails to fully execute and close the deal. This happens so often. So often people are like extremely interested to the point where it's like an easy touchdown. And the coach just says something like, let me know what you think. Or, okay, well, keep me posted. And then it just kind of falls apart from there. So they don't close the deal. The fourth thing that I see is that they don't take control of the conversation. They don't take control. They just assume because, because of that fear that's speaking in the back of their head, right? That little voice in the back of their head. They think that the customer is in control of the conversation because the customer determines the decision. The customer determines the decision, but the customer does not determine the conversation. So you determine the conversation. You determine how it rolls. If someone asks you about the price of Shakeology, you don't have to answer them right away with the cost of Shakeology, because you own the conversation. You own the conversation, okay? Last but not least, number 5, coaches typically worry about being pushy, and they end up being the exact opposite, which is that they're too passive. So they're not really helping anybody in the end, because they're so worried about being pushy that nobody gets helped. Everybody just kind of ends up exactly where they started. Okay, so these are the things that I wanted to specifically call out that I see people say that you should never say. So maybe you take a screenshot of this, or write this down and keep it handy, because I'm telling you, I just did it today. Like, I literally just was typing a message to somebody and I had to backspace delete because I wrote the words, I wonder. I was like, I wonder if the 21-day fix, and then I had to literally backspace, delete, 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 and then I had to change it to, I know that the 21-day fix will work for you. I messed up today with it. So I know you guys are too, right? So things not to say. Never say, let me know if you're interested. Never say, so what do you think? Right? So the sneak peek is over. You had somebody on the sneak peek. Do not message them and say, so what'd you think? I'm going to tell you what to say here in a second. Never, the same thing goes for thoughts. Like, these are all just too general. You're not leading them in any direction. You're just sort of taking up air and space. Let me tell you all about my story, right? That's sounding a lot like, hey, let me talk to you all about me, which we are not here to discuss. We're here to discuss you. Never say the cost is $140. What I mean by that is, make sure you notice this is one sentence. So if someone were to say to you, how much does Shakeology cost? Or how much does it cost to get in your group? You never respond by saying, the cost is $140. No. Okay. The last thing, of course, is I think, or maybe, or I wonder. So like I just told you, I wonder if the 21-day fix would be a great solution for you. Or I think maybe this might be a good solution for you. No, it needs to be, I know this is the right thing for you. They need someone else to have authority with that. They need somebody else to believe in them wholeheartedly. Not maybe. They need you to know that this is going to work for them. Okay, so here are the things to say. Always, always, always ask a question. Look at this. Every single one of these things that I said to say are questions. What is your ultimate goal? What does a day in your nutrition look like? What are you doing for exercise? Do you have someone or something holding you accountable to your goals? Or what's holding you back? You can never, ever, ever go wrong with a question. The reason being, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but typically there's literally science behind this that says that when two people have a conversation, the person who walks away from the conversation thinking that the conversation went well is the person who did the most talking. So your responsibility in these messages and in these conversations is to facilitate the talking of the other person. So when I have somebody come into my studio for the first time and I ask them the question, hey, so tell me about your nutrition. I can learn a lot about them. They typically will give me a dissertation on all the problems that they have. That's what you want, because in that, you're going to find how this particular package that we have to offer is a solution for them. That's what you want. You don't want to just assume that people need Shakeology because they need to be more regular. If really they have no problem with regularity, they actually just need to have breakfast in the morning, or they need to have more mental focus or something. You have to know what it is that they need in their particular life and with their particular body so that you can service that need by offering it as a solution. You can't just assume. You can't assume. You have to get to know them. Okay, so questions are always a good way to go. Other things to say are, quote, I'm happy to answer your question, but first, and then ask them a question. So this is a good thing to say if someone says to you, how much does Shakeology cost? Which I know a lot of you new coaches are getting questions. You know, they see your posts and they're like, hey, so how much does it cost? And they want you to tell them, like, they're expecting you to write back and be like $7 bajillion, and so that they can be like, that's crazy, right? So what you want to do is you want to write back and say, I'm happy to answer your question. Thanks for reaching out. First, I'd love to get to know your goals better. What interests you about Shakeology? Or what would you consider is your ultimate goal? Right? Any of those questions that I just gave you. Okay, another thing that's great to say is, sounds like this is a perfect fit for you, right? Sounds like this is a perfect fit for you. They need to know that, again, this particular solution that you have fits their need perfectly. And we know it does, right? We have no hesitation in knowing it does, because we know that if people move and they follow a food plan and they drink Shakeology, they're going to see results. Okay, ready to move forward is one of my favorites because it is directive and it's making the assumption that they're interested and they're ready to move forward. Most of us don't do that. Most of us just wait for the other person to, basically, I don't even know what, like throw up flags and be like, I'm ready, when really we have to ask. So you have to provide that direction. Are you ready to move forward? And then, as I've mentioned, saying things like, I'm confident, or I know, or I believe without a doubt that this is the right fit, right? So there's no lack of confidence, there's no hesitation, there's no maybe. You definitely know that this is perfect for them. Okay, so becoming a conversation master is important, but it's also important in what we do because we have such a full, well-rounded package to offer. And I'm not here to give you the spiel because you guys are already obviously all coaches. But what I found is that most of the time, people are on board with one of these three things. They're on board with working out. For example, people that come into my gym, they've decided they're joining a gym. They've decided they need to start moving their body. That's usually, like I would guess 70% of the time, that's what people are attracted to you for. They see your workout videos on Facebook or they see your workout posts on Facebook. And so they're like, I need to move. I'm going to reach out to her and I'm going to ask her about this workout program she's doing. And where we struggle as coaches is then getting them to do both a workout and change their nutrition all at the same time. Would you agree? I think so. Okay, sometimes though, like maybe 20 or 30% of the time, I'll say 20% of the time, they're interested in Shakeology because they've seen our Shakeology posts or they've read something about it or whatever, right? So they reach out to you and they ask about Shakeology. So in other words, they're interested in maybe supplementing with a shake, but it hasn't crossed their mind yet that they need to move or they need to follow a fitness program. So people typically come in with different reasons and they're very rarely ever on board with it all. They very rarely come in and say, you know what, I really need a workout program, I need to change my diet, and I really need the support of somebody. Nobody ever says that. They're on board with one, and it's up to you to tell them what we do and how all three play a role in their success. So the reason that I was originally going to draw this out as a three-pronged thing, and I changed my mind and I turned it into a pyramid instead. Because what people really need is the support. What they really need is the support. So the foundation of what we have to offer is the support, right? We also know that nutrition is 80% of the equation. So the nutrition takes up the next foundational block of the pyramid. The workouts is just the icing on top. That's my personal opinion. I also think it might be factual, but it's mostly my personal opinion. Okay, so here's what I know about this, is that most people don't understand that they need the support. They just think that they have to start exercising, right? They don't understand that. So that is where your conversations should center, is on the support factor of what you have to offer. You are never selling a program or a product. You are selling yourself. I teach at my studio a group of car salesmen. And tonight, one of the car salesmen said to the other car salesman, dude, you know what I figured out tonight? People don't buy cars, they buy you. And I was just like, they finally caught on, right? Like even the car salesman has figured this out. So this goes for us in relationship marketing. People buy you. They buy the fact that you're going to be supporting them with their goals, that you have a solution for them as far as an accountability group. That's where you need to be focusing your conversation on the magic of the accountability group and what that does for people. And oh, by the way, I have these tools that will come to you that will help you with those details, that will help you with the exercise and the nutrition. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, so let's dive into like the nitty gritty stuff. So I would actually recommend screenshotting this more than writing it down, only because I'm probably going to fly through it pretty quick. So like I said, typically one of those things interests people. These are some indicators. If someone reaches out to you and they say, hey, tell me more about these workouts you're doing. Or, hey, I saw you posted something about this hammer and chisel. What is that? Right? That means that they're maybe on board. They've kind of already embraced the concept in their mind that they need to start moving. That doesn't necessarily mean that they understand or appreciate the need for nutrition or support. In other cases, people might reach out and say, so what is this Shakeology stuff? Or can you tell me more about those containers that you're always posting about? So, right, this is the opposite. They might not really be fully ready to embrace exercise, but they're ready to embrace a shake or a food system. And there's sometimes people, I'm sure you guys get these people who they usually comment on your posts. They don't even private message you, and they say things like, oh, I wish I had your motivation. Or, oh, I wish I just had you like living in my house so that you could just like slap me and make me eat right or whatever, right? Like they're always saying that they really wish they had the motivation. Those are people who they're on board with the support, but they just don't want to pay you for the fitness or the nutrition piece, if I'm being honest, right? So people come in for different reasons. Typically one thing interests them, not all three. So the reason I bring this up for you is because when you have your initial conversation, it is crucial for you to inform them of the full package and why that full package is going to give them results. You're going to do that by completely owning and facilitating the conversation with questions. You're going to get them to understand that this is a need that they have. If you were to say to your husband, honey, we have to, you got to just spend this weekend. It's Labor Day weekend. You've got to spend this weekend staining the fence. Like, we've waited too long. This fence needs to happen. This is why we need to do it, X, Y, Z, right? What is your spouse probably going to say to you, ladies? He's going to be like, screw you. Like, I'm not doing, you do the fence. Like, I'm not doing the fence, right? Like, you can't tell people what they need. They have to understand it. So let me tell you a little trick that I do. I say to my husband, what are we going to do this weekend? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Like, we have the whole weekend free. Yeah. What do you think we should do? I ask questions. I do the same thing that I do with my customers. And he's like, I don't know. And then I say, is there anything we need to do? Right? I lead him to the conclusion. And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, we should probably, we've been meeting to do the fence. We need to stain the fence again. I'm like, oh, good idea. We should do that this weekend since we have 3 days. Same thing. I hope you guys are following this. I'm leading him to the conclusion versus telling him what he needs. Too many of us are having conversations with people and we're telling them what they need. We're telling them about the 21-day fix. We're telling them about our own results with the 21-day fix, instead of asking them questions that lead them to understand that they need what we have. Okay, so this is super tiny font, and I know that, but I couldn't get it on one slide without doing it this way. So I'm gonna read it out loud to you. This is sort of a little role playing. I'm gonna do role playing for you for all three categories. So these are legit. This is legitimately how most of my conversations go. Okay, so this is like almost word for word exactly what I deal with on a daily basis. Okay, so let's say, like I said before, that someone's interested in working out. They've seen my post about hammer and chisel. They send me a message and they say, tell me more about these workouts you're doing. That's when I write back and I say something really short. I don't write a dissertation. I say, absolutely, what interests you? Question. So take a look, first of all, let's just do a quick look real fast. Look at all the bolded statements here. So I bolded all of the coach responses. Notice how all of them, except the last one, end with a question. Every single one of them end with a question except for the last one. Okay, so I say back to them, absolutely, what interests you? Okay, they say back, I just know I need to do something. I've thought about joining the gym, but I see you doing your thing at home. I just thought I'd ask. So I write back, okay, awesome, I'm happy to help you. What would you say is your ultimate goal? This is almost always my first question. I need to know what they're shooting for. How can I help them if I don't know what they're shooting for? They write back and they say something like, well, I probably need to lose about 20 pounds. I say back, okay, how would you describe your current fitness level? Because again, how can I service their need? I'm not just gonna start talking to them about the workout I'm doing. if they want to lose 20 or more pounds. I don't know if hammer and chisel is necessarily the best fit for them. So when they come back to me and they say, definitely beginner, I know that I'm not going to direct them toward hammer and chisel, right? So now I'm automatically thinking in my head, okay, 21-day fix. Now I've got to start talking to them about eating. Because if I'm going to try to sell them on the 21-day fix workout program, they need to also be on board with the food. So she says to me, beginner. So then I say back, okay, great. This helps me get a feeling for what's going to work best for you. Let's talk about your nutrition. What does a typical day look like for you as far as eating goes? She writes back, well, I don't really eat breakfast. I typically go out to lunch, and then usually we just do whatever we can for dinner, right? I have people tell me all the time, oh, I just have normal dinner at home. And so I say to them, no breakfast? So right there, I've already picked up early in the conversation, I've already picked up on something that we can improve. If she's not eating breakfast, that's an easy fix. We need to get Shakeology in her belly for breakfast, right? So I write back and I say, no breakfast? Girl, we've got to get you eating in the morning, and we've got to get that metabolism up. Okay, so here's what I do. I lead accountability groups. So this is where I introduce what I do. Okay, I've asked her questions. I've got her engaged in the conversation. Then I tell her what I do. So here's what I do. I lead accountability groups here on Facebook. You've probably seen me post about them, where everybody in the group is doing a home workout program, drinking Shakeology, following a meal plan, and they're checking in the group daily. I'm telling you, these groups are where the magic happens. It sounds to me like you could benefit from a daily workout, Shakeology as your breakfast, and as we all know, support and accountability go a long way. Do 30-minute workouts and a structured program sound doable for you? Okay, so let's kind of dissect that for just a second. So I have done nothing here except put passion and enthusiasm behind what we have to offer. These groups are where the magic happens. I use that phrase in almost every conversation that I have because I want people to know, hey, don't you discount this group, because this group is going to be more important to you than those containers will be. The support is more important to you than that. So then I tell them, then I'm giving her specific, I'm helping her visualize how this package would work for her. I'm telling her, it sounds to me like you could benefit from a daily workout, which she's already kind of on board with that thought in her mind. Shakeology for breakfast. I'm telling her you could have it for breakfast. And of course, the support and accountability. And ending with a question. Does this sound doable? Most of the time, people say yes. Sometimes they ask more questions. Most of the time, they say yes. That's when I say, awesome. Okay, I so believe you can do this. Welcome to the magic that is a challenge group. So I'm already acting like she's committed. I'm acting like she's committed because she's committed. Like at this point in our conversation, she's committed. At that point, then I say to her, all I need is your email and your flavor preference for Shakeology, and I can generate the order to you. Are you a chocolate fan, or are you more of a coffee drinker? I do that on purpose as well, because if I were to say, we have 7 flavors, which one do you want? I could probably never hear back because they're not going to know. So I try to direct them again because I'm owning this conversation. So I'm directing them, chocolate or coffee? Most of the time people pick one of the two. And if they don't, they say, both of those sound awful. Do you have a vanilla? And I say, yes. So you're always going to know right away from that question. Okay, so she tells me iced coffee. She gives me her email. At that point, I'm done with my questions. I'm providing directions. I say, okay, great. I'm generating the order to you now for Cafe Latte Shakeology and the 21-Day Fix program, which comes with the meal plan and workouts. Let me know when you send it through and I will add you to the group. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, my customers put their orders through within 10 minutes. Because we're having this conversation, I've told them when I generated the order, and I'm asking them to confirm for me when they sent it through. So I'm closing the deal on the spot. On the spot. Okay, so that is sort of my in-depth role-playing for somebody who's expressed interest in fitness. The same thing might happen for Shakeology. You might get a message from somebody that says, flat out, how much does Shakeology cost? Right? Like, so how much is this stuff that you're posting about? And I want you to know that responding in the way that I'm about to tell you is not sidestepping their question. You're going to answer them, but it's not wise for you to answer them right off the bat because they don't see the value in Shakeology yet. So if they don't see the value, they're going to think it's too expensive, right? So what I say back to people is I say their name. People like to hear their name. I say, hey, Sue, or hey, Jackie, I'm so happy that you reached out to me. I'm happy to answer your question, but I'd love to get to know your goals first. What would you say is your ultimate goal? Sometimes I'll say, what is it that interests you? Typically, they don't say like, how dare you sidestep my question? Like nobody ever says that. They want to talk about themselves. So they write back and they say, well, I need to lose about 45 pounds. The doctors told me, blah, blah, blah. And we start that conversation. I start asking more questions. And then once I feel like I've asked the right questions, that's when I introduce the cost. That's when I say to her, okay, great. Let me tell you about what I do. I lead Facebook accountability groups, right? Just like this one. Just like this exact role-playing thing that we just did. I lead accountability groups here on Facebook where people do X, Y, Z. The cost to enter the group is $140. I will insert that cost because she's asked me, but I won't do it until I get to know her goals. And I just don't want you guys to think that this is sidestepping her answer. This is helping her in the best way possible. Because if I just give her the cost and she thinks it's too expensive and she doesn't see the value, she's not going to move forward and she's just going to remain 45 pounds overweight. So nobody's winning if I do it that way, if I'm worried about what she thinks or what she says. Okay. And then last but not least, like I said before, I wanted to provide this because I see this happen for a lot of you guys. Coaches tend to be a little bit more self-motivated than the average customer. So we're posting about our workouts, we're posting about our shake every day, and people comment. What do you do when people comment and they say, I wish I had your motivation? Do you just click the like button on their comment, or do you private message them? You private message them. Always. And you say, hey, Jackie, hey, Sue, I saw your comment on my post and I wanted to reach out. You don't need my motivation. We can dig up yours. I always want to show people that I'm there to support them. So in other words, they're mentioning interest. When they say to you, I wish I had your motivation, that's them saying, I'm interested in this, but I just don't know if I can do it. So it's up to you to reach out and show that belief in them. Hey, you don't need me. You just need to be able to do this, right? We need to get down and dirty with what you really need and what you really want. Typically, those lead to great conversations. Okay, so this gets asked a lot of me to talk about how to transition from, forming with somebody. So in other words, talking about their family, their job, you're talking to them and you're building that relationship. How do you transition from that to, inviting them to a challenge group or something? Hang on, I'm gonna take a drink. Okay, so first and foremost, let me just start with a disclaimer that sometimes you just don't. Sometimes if it's somebody that's in your cold market, it's somebody that is just maybe a referral to you and you hardly know this person, most of the time an invitation to your challenge group or to the business is not going to happen, period. It's not going to happen, period, in the first conversation. You're going to have multiple conversations before it leads to an invitation. That's where the patience component of entrepreneurship comes into play. And I know it's hard. It's hard to swallow that, but it's true. And sometimes there's just never the right time. It just doesn't feel like you know the person well enough to throw out an invitation yet. So I just want you to know that that's okay. Not every person that you're talking to has to lead to an invitation. The second disclaimer that I want to share with you is that sometimes you have to bring it on. So sometimes you have to just find the most smallest piece of common ground and you have to build on it. So in other words, oh, you're a teacher. That must be so fulfilling. I totally understand wanting to make a difference. That's how I feel about my health coaching. How long have you been a teacher? So that's not icky because you're just connecting. You're kind of just chiming in. Most people aren't going to ask you back. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you ask them about what they do, and then 2 hours later, you're like, well, now that I know exactly when they wake up in the morning and what they do, they've never asked me what I do. Sometimes you have to sort of insert it. And I would encourage you to do it in a very casual way. If somebody is telling you about their job, or maybe they're a mom or whatever, I would try to link that together, right? And just say something like, oh, that must be so great. That's how I feel about my health coaching business. So sometimes you have to bring it up, and it might not go anywhere from there, but it might. And that's just a risk that you take. So I want to give you some phrases that I like to use. These have been 3 winning phrases that I've been using recently that have been working really well for me. This first one doesn't because I don't have kids, but I've been doing something similar. So this first one says, I know you've mentioned how hectic life is with 3 little ones. For me, I've been saying to people, I know you've mentioned how hectic your life is right now, working full-time and part-time. I totally get it. Has working out at home ever been something that you've thought about? I know it's a big stress reliever for me. The reason that I like this one is because this is just like you're offering free value. You haven't said anything about, do you want to buy this thing and hop into my group, right? That's not what it's about. You're literally just saying like, wow, your life sounds a lot like mine. It sounds like you're really busy. I'm not really sure, we haven't really talked about exercise yet in this conversation, but is it something that you do? And have you ever thought about doing it at home to try to relieve some stress? This is just another way of transitioning the conversation. Most people are busy and they're going to mention that to you. People really like to tell you how busy they are. So when they do, add something in there about, have you ever tried yoga? Have you ever tried yoga for stress relief? I know it's been a huge game changer for me recently. Or do you work out? Do you belong to a gym? Do you work out at home? Whatever, right? Like you can always ask about that. You can always sort of find that common ground between what you're talking about and workouts. Okay, so the second one I like is, this is the one where you're just kind of like totally real with somebody. You say to them, okay, so I realize that this is going to be completely out of the blue, so please forgive me. But I have just loved getting to know you through this conversation, and I've been thinking about how to get you into my inner circle. I love having positive, high energy people in my life. I know you're active and you're always posting about your food and your workouts. Have you ever considered doing what I do? So if you feel like you're about ready to message somebody and it feels to you like it's out of the blue, it's probably going to feel to them like it's out of the blue. So you might as well just address it. You might as well just say, this is going to seem really weird that I'm asking this, but I just feel like we click, and I just wish there was a way that we could be more connected. Something that I did recently that was like this was, there's this girl that I met in a, what was it called? Like I don't even know, like a 5K mud run Facebook group. And she ended up friending me on Facebook. And so we've been kind of forming and having conversations for a while now. And she actually reached out to me and said something about like, you're such an inspiration. And I wrote back and I said something about, well, I love following you too. And so we had this awesome conversation where I basically just said to her, man, I wish there was some way that we could just stay in contact more often. Because I feel like I really loved getting to know you. And I really, to be honest with you, I wish that you were on my team or something so that I could just get in front of you more often, or we could, see each other. And she literally wrote me back and she was like, would you ever be up for doing a Zoom? And I was like, yeah, I would love that. So we ended up Zooming and having this awesome conversation. And I felt like I really did get to know her better. And then in that conversation, I kind of brought up the whole coaching thing. So I think that if you can just tell people that you're in this, it's kind of like you're showing them that you're in this for the right reason. You're not in this to make a sale. You really just want to get to know them better, and you want them to be more, part of your inner circle. The last one is to say to them, like, if you've been talking till you're blue in the face about their kids and their family and their job and whatever else, that's where that sometimes you can just say this to them, and I'm telling you, this is gold. This is gold. You can say, it has been awesome chatting with you. I have a favor to ask if it's not too much. I recently started this health coaching business online where I work with anybody virtually. If you or anyone you know are looking for support to help you get started or see results, would you keep me in mind? I love what I do. Consider this my virtual business card. So I added the LOL in there. I put a smiley face in there. I kept it casual. But I've been doing this sort of virtual business card thing for several months, like probably since June. And I've had a lot of business from this. I have had a lot of people either flat out ask me, like, this is, first of all, it's a great transition, because then the person that you've been talking to about their family and their job, you finally said something about you, And so sometimes it does prompt the question, oh, yeah, okay, so you're a health coach. So tell me more about what you do. And sometimes the response you get back is, okay, yeah, I can keep you in mind. And if I hear this, I'll let you know. I've had a few different people who have sent coworkers or friends or family to my like page or to me personally on Facebook after I've asked this question. So it's almost like you're not asking them, you're asking for a referral. Like, hey, I'm not trying to insinuate that like you need to lose weight or anything, or that you want to be in my challenge group, right? Like that's sort of what you're insinuating. You're insinuating, but if you know anybody who is, would you think of me? Would you think of me? So so you need in your business right now, I want to wrap this up so that I can take any questions you guys might have, but in your business in general, as a coach, you're a relationship builder. You've got to have private conversations, or else you're not moving your business forward. You can't just expect that your public posts on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter are going to be what builds your business. It's not. It's not. To be completely honest with you, I have not done a fantastic job of inviting to challenge groups publicly for the last 2 months. If you were to scroll my Facebook feed from probably July 1st until now, you probably would see like 3 invites publicly. But the reason that I'm rocking my business is because I'm having a lot of private conversations. So if you've been relying on public posts and fancy photos to attract people, it's not going to work. You're going to have private messaging conversations with people. You're going to have to build those relationships. Okay, I have to take another drink. I told you guys I had like 20 slides. Okay, so there are 3 types of objections that we commonly receive. And actually, I should say this, I don't receive any objections, but I think it's because I set up the value in the product and because I own the conversation that I don't let the objection happen. So Kim Carver was here last week and he offered this, and I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you guys. This was one of my main takeaways. He offered translations for the 3 most common types of objections that we receive. And I think these are really powerful because they reflect back on us as the entrepreneur so that we know how to improve. Typically, if someone doesn't say yes to you, they're never really saying no. They're never saying like, no, get out of my face. I think in 6 years, I've never had anybody do that to me, ever. Usually their no falls into one of the three following categories. It's either a no, not right now, right? Usually what that means is someone messages you back and they say, hey, thanks for thinking of me. I was really hoping I could do it this month, but all 3 kids started back to school and I have to buy new shoes for all of them. So now my budget is completely blown. I'm not going to be able to do this right now. So when someone says that to you, that's really what they mean, right? Like they're not trying to be like, they're not trying to sidestep you. This legitimately could just not be a good time for them right now. And so according to Kim Carver, this should translate to us as, please follow up with me. Please follow up with me. The average person needs 3 follow-ups in order to move forward. The average person needs to be followed up with 3 times before they move forward. Too often in our mind, just because it wasn't the right time for somebody, we forget or we don't circle back to them. And that's a mistake. The second type of common objection that we receive is it's too expensive. Shakeology is too expensive, right? And according to Kim, this translates to, I just don't see the value in this yet. This is why I go back to, if you're talking to them about their goals and that if they themselves uncover the issue at hand or the solution that they need to fill, then the cost doesn't matter. They have to see the value in it and what's in it for them. The third most common type of objection is, I just don't see myself doing this right now. Sometimes they mean physically, sometimes they mean, emotionally. They're not ready. So this translates to, tell me that you believe in me because I definitely don't believe in myself. If they say something to you like, I can't see myself doing this right now, or I'm not going to be able to do this right now, they might need that little extra push. They might need that push that says, come on, I know you can do this, right? That's what they need in that situation. Okay, so my final thoughts for you are this. You own the conversation. From the time someone messages you or the time that you message someone else and you start building the relationship, you own the conversation. You ask questions 99.9% of the time. You inform them once you've gathered enough information, and then you direct them to take an action. All three things have to happen. If it feels icky to you, don't send it, because it probably is. Same thing goes for social media posts. If you're getting ready to post something and it feels weird, don't post it, because it's probably weird. So you want to make sure that when you're reading, Shalene Johnson gave us this advice actually at Marketing Impact Academy this summer. She said when you're sending, for us, the advice she was giving us had to do with our email funnel. So in other words, what we send to people, like our automatic email that people receive when they subscribe to us. And she said that that email should sound exactly like it was being sent by your best friend. So you guys, when I subscribed to Shalene Johnson, when I subscribed to Marketing Impact Academy, I got an email from her. The subject line said, "Hey," with a smiley face, and it was all lowercase, from Shalene Johnson. Like, you would think that it would have been like this formal title. And then the actual email, I literally had to ask myself, like, did she write this to me? Or was this like a mass email? Like, I couldn't tell. That's how you want your messages to feel to people. You want other people to feel like you guys are close friends and that you care about them and that you're keeping everything really casual. If you're not utilizing your upline diamond to help you with your conversations, you're not making progress fast enough. The people who have succeeded the quickest on our team are the people who have literally sent almost every conversation they're having to their upline. That's a fact. This takes practice and it takes patience. Sometimes the hard news is just realizing that now just isn't the right time to invite somebody, and that's okay. You've had the conversation, you're building the relationship, you have to trust and believe that that will evolve over time. And last but not least, you have to become a master of conversations, but you also have to become a master of following up. Because if you're having all kinds of conversations and no way of tracking those conversations and no way of knowing who to go back to, you're still going to be treading water. So your follow-up system has to be in place. So does anybody have any questions about anything that I might have missed or anything that I did not cover specifically about mastering conversations? You can unmute yourself.
Hey, I have a specific thing. I had a follow-up today, and
Yep.
Man, I wish I had it tomorrow instead now. But they are very interested in Shakeology. They're already doing T25 with their spouse. They actually are friends of ours, so they came over to hang out with my hubby, and I sent them home a pack of Shakeology, and they tried it. They liked it. They already have protein drinks that they don't really like, so they thought this is great. They actually like the flavor, but, and this is where it gets a little private, they felt like it maybe bound them up a little bit. So now they're nervous, and I'm not sure. Talked to them a bit. I said, well, I'll talk to my upline coach, and she might have experience and understand this. I personally have a different system. Like, I truly do. I don't have a large intestine. So I said, I've never had that problem, but I'm sure other people have if you're having it, or we'll figure it out. So I did talk to Katie Kelly. She gave me some good advice. So I figured tomorrow I can maybe text him like, hey, I found out, blah, blah, blah. But any advice on how to approach it or word it, or how to, I guess, rescue and get them confident in the product again?
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing to know is really just like standing behind the product is always going to be the very best thing that you can do. I had a girl recently who had purchased, I think, 21 Day Fix and Shakeology. I actually had made her a shake at my studio and she loved it. And then she ordered the 21 Day Fix and Shakeology combo pack and participated in the 21 days. And then next thing I know, she brought me her second bag of Shakeology to the studio. And she was like, hey, I can't drink this. She said something about it upsetting her stomach. And I said to her, okay, well, she doesn't have any sort of like, she's not Crohn's disease. She doesn't have any like diagnoses or anything. So she said to me, well, I just have a really sensitive stomach. And so I told her, I was like, well, I totally get that. So do I. I don't do dairy, wheat, eggs, soy, any form of gluten. I don't do almonds. I don't do I don't do oats. Like I have a lot of restrictions based on my own sensitivities. So I spoke from my own experience. And then I said to her, what did you mix it with? And she was like, well, I mixed it with almond milk. And I told her, I said, well, oddly enough, a lot of nuts can cause a lot of different sensitivities. And I see a lot of people who struggle with almond allergy or almond sensitivity. So I was like, I would encourage you to try it again. Try it with a different type of milk or even water and see how that goes. If it doesn't go well, then cut back to half a scoop until your body gets used to it. So she wrote me back like a day later and she was like, I did it with coconut milk and I didn't have a problem. So sure enough, it was what she was mixing it with and it wasn't the actual Shakeology. So standing behind the product, first of all, and saying, well, I'm sure it's not the Shakeology. I mean, I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be like intrusive on the too much information thing, but I'm just telling you from a nutritionist perspective, there is no way that Shakeology would constipate anybody. There's just no way. Like, there's no way that that's possible. Now, what is possible is that their diet is so wonky that it could be that that's sort of the start of their detox process. So when you put something like Shakeology in your system that is superfood dense, it's going to try to clean you out. So as soon as it tries to clean you out, the first thing it's going to do is it could cause like an adverse reaction. It could cause you to sort of have a little bit of an upset stomach. For a lot of people, it's like more of a different effect where it kind of makes them go to the bathroom. But it's different for everybody. And so you cannot base your decision off of just one shake. So what I would say to her is I would stand behind the product and I would be like, hey, I ran this by my coach. Here's what she suggested. I truly don't think it's going to cause you any sort of bind up issues, just based on the fact that it's made of real food and it's fibrous food. But if I were you, I would recommend trying it for a few days in a row before making an ultimate decision. So that's kind of the route I would go with it. But I don't know what Katie offered as far as like specific advice, but I would find out, what they mixed it with. There's always different options. There's different steps you can take depending on what's affecting them.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely ask what they're mixing it with because you guys, I'm telling you right now, a lot of people are sensitive to almond milk. It's very, very, very common.
I'm guessing it's the rest of their diet, frankly, yeah. but no, that's awesome. Thank you.
It's so funny when people say to me like, oh, I'm pretty sure the Shakeology constipated me. And I'm like, or maybe it was the Wendy's. It might have been the Wendy's. But it's hard to say that, Sometimes you're like, how do I say that? But yeah, so I would just encourage them to try more than one and to figure out a way to make it work. Any other questions, you guys? Okay, so I have one more thing that I didn't, that I thought of right before we started that's not on the slide, but this is something that I think is another cool thing to utilize, another cool way to transition a conversation from forming or even just sort of like a cold conversation out of the dark. We have, and we haven't mentioned it in a long time, but we have a team, what we call a team freemium. So we have a cookbook that a lot of you guys submitted recipes for that my assistant put together. So we have this awesome Body Electric cookbook. It's on the website, so it's digital. And so the reason we call it a freemium is because we created it with the intention of you giving it away. So you can literally give it away to people in exchange for either feedback or in exchange for their email address. So for those of you who are considering starting a newsletter or starting an email list of some sort, you can put that out there. You can say, hey, if you'll give me your email address and you'll hop on my email list, I would be happy to send you a copy of this free cookbook. So that's just sort of a side note. But you can still utilize that cookbook too to transition your conversations. And maybe you're somebody who's kind of created your own content. Maybe you've already created your own, checklist for meal prepping or whatever it is that you might be good at. But even if you don't, we have this cookbook as a team for a reason. So this is something that I think might work well. And I haven't played with it myself, but I'm pretty sure just that it might work. So bear with me. But I think what you could do is you could either reach out to somebody cold, or in a conversation where you're forming with somebody and you don't know how to transition them, you could say to them something like, hey, question for you. I have this thing that I'm giving away. It's this cookbook that's got a lot of like healthy recipes in it. A lot of them are really, really good and really easy for on-the-go moms. Would you be interested in taking a look at it and giving me some feedback? So what that does is it gets the person looking at something in the world of health and fitness to give. People always want to give their feedback, right? Like, have you ever seen people that ask questions on Facebook, like, comment below with what shirt I should wear tomorrow? And like 764 people comment with like, you should wear the A or B or C or the purple shirt. Like, people always want to give their feedback. So why not give them this cookbook and be like, hey, can I email you this cookbook? And could you give me some feedback on it? Like, can you let me know like if these recipes would be useful for you? Because I know you mentioned that you're super busy and obviously you've got 3 kids or whatever. So maybe it might be helpful for you. I just thought of you and I wanted to see if this might be useful. So then you're transitioning the conversation to health and fitness, right? So then it's like you're not only that, you're giving them something of value. You're like, hey, I know you haven't brought this up, but I was hoping I could give you this free, awesome thing. And so people are like, okay, great. I actually had something similar happen tonight. I had a girl reach out to me asking me a question about my gym. And so I said to her, I actually just created this free checklist. Would you like for me to send it to you? And she was like, sure. So I sent it to her before our call. And I sent her a message saying, hey, I would actually love your feedback because I just created the checklist. So I would love your feedback. And she literally wrote me back and she said, tomorrow I'll have some time. I'll take a look at it and I'll let you know my thoughts. So people are really intrigued about giving feedback. I think that might be a good way for you guys to, we already have it. You don't have to create it. You can just send it out, ask for feedback, and that would be an easy transition and conversation too. Okay. And that would, that would be easy for following up too. You could even follow up a few days later and be like, hey, did you get a chance to check that out? Did you try any of those recipes? Right? Easy question. Doesn't feel weird. Okay. So stay patient, my friends. Stay patient because you're doing the right thing. Having these conversations is what we do. You'll get better at them. Nobody's perfect. Even like I said, even me today, I was hitting the backspace button. I was changing things up. So the more casual you can keep it, the more you can make people feel truly the way they should feel, which is that you care about them and that you have their best interest in mind. If you're asking questions, if you're getting to know them, if you're fulfilling their need with your solution, then you're going to be helping them and helping you. So hopefully this was helpful, you guys. I'll have the recording uploaded tomorrow. If you guys have any specific questions or if you want to shoot me your conversations, I'm happy to help you. Otherwise, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yep, thank you.